immigrant, we have a certain level of insecurity, right? We have certain fears and insecurity. So the only way I could overcome that was by working hard, saving. So by the time I got to from LA, I came to Silicon Valley.
Welcome and thank you for joining us again to another amazing episode with Bobby Sharma. He is our parcero. If you're Colombian, you know what we're talking about. He loves Medellin. He loves Colombia. So he instantly became a brother when we met on his podcast. He was wearing a Colombian jersey and we love it. Bobby is the man. Bobby, he immigrated to the United States in 1984. He has a degree of information science from South Alabama. He also has, see here, computer information science. Yep, that's it. Uh, the man is very smart, technical. He works in Silicon Valley, has a lot of experience with investors, accredited and non-accredited, starting companies, multifamily syndications. Let's see, at this time, he has two major Facebook groups, 5,000 plus members. And we'll go ahead and talk about that because, Bobby has a lot of knowledge and he's going to drop nuggets for us. So we'll begin. And Bobby, tell us a little bit about your beginnings. You immigrated here and that's a big deal. We talked about that in your show, how that shaped you, obviously, right? So tell us, how that was growing up and how that influenced your investing life, your professional life, and eventually getting into multifamily.
Yeah, you bet. So thank you, parceros, compadres, hermanos. Yeah, it's honored to be on your show. Like I said, I'm really happy to get to know you both, and personally and in business. But yeah, I was 19 as a kid. I studied American history. I learned about the independence and the presidents and all of the I got to admire, United States from Hollywood, watching Hollywood movies. And I had some American professors, teachers that I really admired. So I always had a dream of coming here. So when I was 19, I landed in, of all places, Mobile, Alabama. That was the only college my parents could afford to send me to, but it turned out okay. And I got my degree. Luckily, the economy was good. I was able to get a green card, and then one day I was renting a room in a person's house because I was an immigrant. I had a very small salary. This is in Corona/Riverside, California, not far from Temecula, but I noticed that, first I rented one room and then he brought in a whole bunch of other people. And I'm like, you know what, this is getting crowded. But one day I was driving in Riverside and I saw a for sale sign, a Century 21 for sale sign. And it was an open house. I walked in, talked to the agent, and I said, I don't have a green card. I'm waiting to get my green card, and and at that time, my attorney had said it's going to take you 4 or 5 years before you get your green card. But I said, okay. And he goes, whatever you do, don't get fired. Keep your boss happy. And so I'm like, all right. So I'm going to be stuck in Corona, Riverside for 4 or 5 years. So long story short, I house hacked. I bought the house. I asked the agent. I said, I'm not a citizen resident. She goes, yeah, I think you can get a loan as long as you have income. So we applied for a loan. I got approved. Long story short, I bought a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. I stayed in the master bedroom, and I got 2 roommates. And lo and behold, the rent from the 2 roommates covered all of my mortgage. I think I was coming out of pocket for insurance and taxes, and that's about it. But yeah, life was good, and they were like my friends. They were about my age. We would go hang out together. But yeah, that's how I got started in real estate. I learned at 24. the power of, house hacking.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, you learned that individual residential entry and your investment there. Tell us a little bit more about your aha moment into multifamily, specifically syndication or JVing into larger assets, and why that became your niche.
Yeah, very, very good question. Yeah, my aha moment was when actually, as you recall, I had started a meetup group about 10 years ago, and I had asked, there was a gentleman who was doing mobile home parks and not even apartments, but he was doing. Although I knew about apartments, I never invested in one. But he came to present at my meetup, and as he was describing the benefits of mobile home parks, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. It sounded better than apartments. So I, long story short, he did the whole presentation, and then afterwards I grabbed coffee with him, and then I became an investor as an LP in that deal. And slowly I started getting my quarterly dividends, and it was like, wow, this is, you mean I don't have to, do any work, and you're paying me, whatever the quarterly dividends are, and so that was kind of cool. And then one day, about a year and a half into the investment, he was local to San Francisco, and we caught up for lunch, and he was kind of sharing some of the challenges that they're having in the business. And I volunteered. I said, listen, I'm an investor. I want you to do well. How about I volunteer my time to help you out? Because they were still a small company. They had about 10 mobile home parks at that time. Now they're much bigger. So I volunteered to become an asset manager. I didn't get paid. I did it in my spare time, but I helped them kind of get their. I was managing the property managers.
Yeah.
So four mobile home parks, but that's when I learned about, hey, multifamily commercial is the way to go. Apartments. That's when the aha moment happened.
Man, that's awesome, man. I know so many people, get stuck in that education level, but you took action. You were like, hey, I'll be your asset manager. So, what I got out of that is that you brought value to someone else, right? And then in turn, that gave you value because you learned how the system worked, right?
And not only that, but and correct me if I'm wrong, you did it for no monetary compensation, right? Just because you wanted to learn.
I wanted to learn, and I wanted to help them. But I always believe you have to give before you receive. So, yeah.
I love it, man.
So when was your actual opportunity to invest your capital in your experience?
Yeah. So, look, I started out 10 years ago. One rule of thumb, I don't know where I learned it, but I learned it very early in my life. My first job was a dishwasher at my university. So I was making $3.35 an hour. But there was a principle that I learned very early. I was just 19 years old. And it was always save 10% of whatever you make. It doesn't matter if you make $10 or $1 million. You got to save 10%. And, a lot of coaches, they say, pay yourself first, right? So I was always looking, because as an immigrant, we have a certain level of insecurity, right? We have certain fears and insecurity. So the only way I could overcome that was by working hard, saving. So by the time I got from LA, I came to Silicon Valley, I had some savings. And so in 2010, I noticed that the market had really dropped, and I started buying properties at the courthouse and trying to flip them. And then I realized, that was not my style. That I didn't enjoy the flipping, dealing with contractors, dealing with the city, dealing with delays. And so anyway, I stopped. I stopped flipping, but I started becoming a private money lender. But that was, I was making less money, but it let me sleep better at night. And then that has scaled up quite a bit. But as far as multifamily, again, it was because of the network that I have had built. One of the most important things for real estate investors is your network. And it cannot be just casual network. It has to be deliberate. It has to be surround yourself with really smart people, ethical people. And we can do a whole podcast on ethical versus non-ethical. Okay, we can do a whole hour on that one.
Yeah.
But find ethical people, who have the same goals, who are not going to screw you over. But that's how it got started.
Well, you hit on a key point there. Let's talk about that lesson learned as far as, because obviously you've had some lessons there, but I'm not going to go super deep, but what's one or two key lessons of maybe you should have seen it, maybe it was in front of you, but as far as to identify, a non-ethical person, someone you shouldn't work with, and how'd you get out of that?
Yeah. So I did run into a general, no, he was a contractor here in Oakland area. And what he was doing was he would say, listen, I'm going to do a JV with you. You put up all the capital and I'll do all the work, but you have to pay for the purchase. You have to pay for the labor, the materials. And then when we're done, we'll split the profits 50-50. I said, okay, on paper, it sounded really good. But what happened is when we got into the deal, I started to notice that, if he was billing me for let's say, a plumber for 30 hours a week, there was no way that the plumber was working 30 hours a week. So bottom line was he was double billing or kind of exaggerating some of the hours because he didn't care, right? He was just collecting the money from me. So whatever profit we had projected, it came out to be nothing like that. And then when I would ask for like timesheets or did he pay his workers, anything like that? No, he would just send me an Excel spreadsheet that his bookkeeper just made up. There was no way for me to see if the lumber or the materials that were being charged to me were actually being delivered to me or not, or they were being delivered to another job site. Since then, I've learned a lot. In fact, we did a meetup about 2 weeks ago on how to track your contractors. But at that time, 10 years ago, I was really naive. And so whatever profit we were supposed to make, it came out to be a fraction of that because I knew that he had overbilled me and that was his way of making extra money. But he's done that to many other people. I've talked to many of his other clients and they're like, yep, that's what he does. So I stopped, working with him. That was one kind of an expensive lesson. Paperwork, running stuff by an attorney. Sometimes we want to save $1,000, $2,000 and not run a contract by an attorney. That can be expensive. So if you're dealing with somebody new, just double check everything. It's not worth losing 6 figures.
And vice versa. If you're new to someone else, you have to perform that due diligence and not only vet them, but make sure that paperwork, like you said, the lawyers are right, because a lot of times you don't, and then that's when it hurts,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think my brother got some company there from his little one, but I crashed the podcast. I love it. German, what you got?
I like it though.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna ask you, man, because I've been in your shoes many times. My brother knows the story, but because especially because I was naive, I was in love with the idea of getting something done or breaking into the entrepreneurial world. But in regards to me, or what was the key factor for you to not get discouraged and be like, okay, this is not made for me. I'm just gonna be an employee all my life. Well, what was the key factor for you to be like, no, yeah, lesson learned, let me move on. I'll make it happen somewhere else.
Great question. You know, I could have easily abandoned, you know, real estate after that and never done it again. But I knew that my W-2, and I was well paid. I didn't hate my company. I didn't hate my boss. I worked for an amazing company. So I was not one of those employees that hated their jobs. I loved my job. But I knew deep down that that was not what I wanted to do all the rest of my life. So for me, it was about what are my, you know, it's either the stock market or real estate. So stock market was not something I could control. You know, I can't control, you know, stocks, right? I can just buy and sell, I can speculate. But in real estate, I knew by being surrounded by, you know, people in my meetup and other meetups that you can go in, you can take it a non-performing asset or a low-performing asset. You can put your sweat equity capital into it, and then you can make it better. Like you can actually add value. So I knew deep down that that's what I wanted to do. And so that's what kept me going. You know, I'm like, okay, whether it's buying, you know, I started buying out of state as well. I was buying in California, but I was also buying out of state. And I'd fly out there, I'd hire a contractor and work with a property management team that had contractors. But I was not afraid. You know, you know, had some bumps there as well, but long term it paid off. But you know, that's what kept me going, German, is the hope that if you add value, you hold on to these things over time, they will appreciate and they will, you know, pay for themselves. So that's what kept me going.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Contrary to you, I had the big picture as well. I wanted to get there, and I messed up in so many steps. But then in reading so many books and so many people and a lot of the mentors that I consider my mentors through the books and audiobooks and things that I've studied is owning it. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, I can point the fingers at everybody. It's your fault. It's your fault. You stole my money, or you never came up with the accountability part. But the reality was that I didn't know. I wasn't experienced, and I needed to get that experience. And I own it, being like, I got into this. They didn't put a pistol in my head saying, hey, come and do business with me. I could have said no. Right. I just needed to do my homework, and I never did the homework.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Owning it, yeah, exactly. The responsibility. So great, awesome, thank you.
So Bobby, you then, you know, obviously you got some experience there. You learned lessons. You know, tell us a little bit about, you know, you are, you know, you work in Silicon Valley. You're obviously connected with investors, and you've started several companies. You know, I'm looking here, roofforall.com. You went from 110 doors to 600 doors. You know, that is an amazing accomplishment, especially, you know, as a fellow immigrant coming from another country and then establishing yourself in the USA, right? You know, I can't help but say congratulate you on that. Wish you even better, you know, more. And prime example of what someone who comes to this country should be. You know, how did you work that company? How did you start that company? Tell us a little bit more about that. Not only the mindset, but the steps you took maybe to put it down put it on paper to make it a reality.
Yeah, no, that was an amazing company, and I'm still part of it. So again, it's happened that this gentleman was speaking at another meetup about Section 8 properties. So I had gone to listen to him at this a different venue, different meetup and I was curious about Section 8 properties, and so I drove down there, and you know how it is at the end of the meetup, you exchange business cards, and that was the extent of it. But he got my card, I got his card, and then a few days later, he called me up, and he goes, "Hey, do you want to grab coffee?" So I'm like, "Sure." Where do you live? And so anyway, we found a spot in halfway, and we met for some coffee, and he told me his business model. And so a few days later, he's like, "Hey, we're looking for some private money lenders. Do you want to give us a shot?" They had gone to 110 doors by themselves. There were three partners. All the properties were in Kansas City. Most of the properties were in Kansas City, and one of the partners lived in Kansas City, and he had managed the portfolio, the rehab, the tenants, and all that. And they fell into it by accident when the property values fell. They were picking up these properties for $4,000 or $5,000, and then fixing them up and putting it up on Section 8 and getting 750 to 950 on these properties. So their cash flow was amazing. Long story short, I became their first outside investor. So I helped them. I gave a loan on a few properties, and I was the first one to kind of get, and become a private money lender to them. And then, they paid me on time. There was no headaches. And then I slowly referred them to some of my friends. And then shortly they invested. And as more people invested, we kept growing. So about 3 years ago, they said, look, plus I was helping them with their website. I was helping them with their CRM. I was helping them with their messaging. So they came to me. They said, listen, we haven't paid you. We appreciate everything you've done. How about we give you a small percentage of our company? And so the four of us sat here in the Bay Area. And so they gave me a small piece of their company. But again, it was because I was willing to give, right? I was willing to help them. But again, there was no expectations, right? So that's kind of how I operate. Like, luckily I've been fortunate in my life, so I want to help others. Not that they needed financial help, but they needed operational help, maybe marketing help. So that's what I provided for them.
That's amazing,
man. So I see in your bio, you retired from your tech job, right? So you're a full-time real estate investor now, and I know you have several platforms. Better Capital USA is, I know, your baby right now, but let's talk a little bit about that company.
Yeah.
And what it does, and the value you're bringing to other people through that platform.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so look, I used to track all my investments in Excel, right? As I have my rentals, my syndications, my private money notes, my JVs, everything was in Excel, and I was, but that was fine maybe up till like 4 or 5 properties, but then you have so many other things. Where's your insurance? What's your equity in your property? Where's my tax bill? Where's my LLC papers? What about pictures? Like my contractor, my property management company in Kansas City, they did some rehab on one of my homes. They sent me a bunch of pictures. Okay, where are those pictures? So about a year and a half ago, I had this idea that I wanted to create an online portal where I could get all my equity information. What's my loan? What's my did all of my rents come in? Did all of my bills get paid? Can I store all my documents in one place? Can I put reminders for paying? Like let's say insurance is due once a year, or tax bills in California are due twice a year. Several times I forgot to pay property taxes because there was just, I was traveling, or I was somewhere and I came home and boom, there's a penalty for not paying your taxes, so in fact, one came in, but that was I have a partnership, and we messed up on but there's a $250 bill from franchise tax board that I got to pay now. But the idea is that we put in reminders, so everything to do with your real estate portfolio. So you have whether your rents came in, did you pay your bills, your insurance policy, when is it due, your taxes. If you have an LLC, when is the filing? There's an annual or biannual filing you have to do. When is that due? So it gives you a full, like, how you log into, let's say, Robinhood or E-Trade or Schwab, and you can see all of your portfolio in real time. You know what's your equity, you know what's your return on investment, you know what's your annual net operating income, all of the financials, all in one place, including my favorite, which is the year end. When my tax person sends me an email and says, send me all the information about your properties, what was your income, what was your expenses, what did you buy it for, what's the land value versus the building value, all of that. So me and a friend of mine who also owns several rental properties, he was having the same challenge. We put it all into a website. It talks to your bank, it talks to your mortgage company, and we combined or consolidated everything. It's called bettercapital.us. But I built it for myself, but I know if you're an active real estate investor, you would probably want something like that. It's free, but that's what I built it for.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so it's like a mint, because I was on your meetup last time on Facebook, and it's like a mint for real estate.
It's like mint.com for real estate. You nailed it.
Oh yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah, because I heard the person that was talking that day on Monday, I can't remember his name, and they said, or somebody that asked a question, and they kind of compared to mint for real estate, and Bobby was saying, yeah, because you have mint, which is for personal finances, but you cannot mix it with your investments, especially with real estate. So it's basically that, and that's when the light popped. I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, that's what I want. That's where we want to transfer our portfolio to. And
thank you.
Have it on real time.
Yeah. But of course, the source data it pulls has to be correct. So, but the website, I mean, I took a look at it. It looks amazing, man.
Thank you.
Bobby, just to get this a little bit wrapping up, let's if you could give us one key takeaway of either that you said on this show or that you want to give someone starting multifamily or investing, or investors that want to put their capital, what would it be?
My key advice, I'll say there's three things you have to do. One, surround yourself with positive and smart people. Positive, ethical, and smart people. That's number one. And it's got to be more than just casual. It's got to be a very close-knit relationship. It's got to be a very trustworthy relationship. So surround yourself with good people. They don't have to be real estate people. It helps if you're going to do that, but they could be any businessman. They could be in tech. They could be in a restaurant. Doesn't matter. But positive, ethical, smart people. Okay. Number two, take action. Right. Every day, wake up, have your plan. Take some actions. Make progress every day. And the third would be, learn, give and learn. Give. That's always been my thing. Is how can I help you? And that if there's something I can do for you, great. Because but I always go to somebody with an offer versus like just asking for information or asking for favors. it's got to be what can I do for you first. But yeah, those are the three things that I would focus on.
Awesome. Amazing.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, Bobby. So where can people find you?
Yeah, very easy. So if you just go to bettercapital.us, and my email is bobby@bettercapital.us. Hopefully very simple. But I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Meetup. I'm trying to be everywhere, but maybe not on Instagram, but soon on Instagram. But
Yeah.
And you have your own podcast as well, right? And your own meetup.
Thank you. And you're going to be, you've been on my podcast, and I'm sure I'm going to have you again, but it's on YouTube. It's called Higher Profits with Bobby Sharma. But we're getting that launched. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for letting me speak on your podcast, and hopefully everybody learns a little bit every day.
Absolutely, man. And thank you so much for coming on. It's truly an honor. We love having you, talking to you and just quality guests that you are. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, man. And thank you for the support as well. And I've learned so much about you, and your meetups is awesome. Your guests are awesome. So we'll keep in touch, because we got a lot of stuff cooking. So that's pretty cool.
Gracias, señor.
Gracias, brother.
All right. Talk to you soon.